Everything began on a day that seemed perfect. The day my brother got married, and I discovered that the husband I had been intimate with betrayed me just a few steps away. From that moment, my family turned into a battlefield. In the place where love died, justice was born, and sometimes revenge is the only way to heal.
Before we begin this story, let me know where you are listening from in the comments below.
My name is Chloe Miller. I'm 33 years old, and what I'm about to tell you today will forever change the way you see your own family. Happiness, I once thought, was the quiet kind. No fireworks, no chaos, just stillness that felt safe. That evening, under the glittering chandeliers of the Fairmont San Francisco, I truly believed my life had found its rhythm again. My brother Liam was getting married, my husband Ethan stood beside me in success and stability, and I, Chloe Miller, finally had peace. The Fairmont glowed like something out of a dream: crystal, marble, and the faint perfume of old money. A string quartet played Sinatra, waiters glided between tables, and laughter floated like bubbles of champagne. I watched Liam, handsome, grounded, the kind of man who carried our parents' memory like a secret promise, smiling beside Sophia, his perfect bride-to-be. She was radiant, composed, golden in her gown, and the entire room adored her. I should have too. But something in her eyes, too calm, too knowing, always made me shiver. Ethan, my husband, was across the room, entertaining investors with that easy charm that had once melted me. He was everything I had prayed for after our parents died: dependable, charismatic, my anchor. We were the kind of couple people admired from afar, polished and untouchable. And yet, lately I'd begun to feel like a portrait hung too long in the same frame. Beautiful, but fading. When he caught my gaze, he smiled that signature smile of his, half warmth, half performance, and I smiled back, pretending I couldn't tell the difference. I slipped away from the crowd, seeking air. The terrace opened into a perfect San Francisco evening, cool, salt-tinged, the skyline shimmering like glass. The city felt alive, and for a fleeting second, I felt alive with it. I thought of our parents and how proud they would have been. After all the grief, all the rebuilding we had survived. A soft wind brushed my skin. I wanted to find Ethan, to share a small private moment before the ceremony. Maybe a kiss, a joke. Something simple to remind me that we were still us. The corridor was warm and golden, lined with sconces shaped like stars. My reflection followed me in every mirror, hair pinned perfectly, dress pristine, expression calm. I almost believed my own lie. Then I heard it. A laugh. Not loud, but unmistakably his. Ethan's laugh. It was the one I hadn't heard in months. Deep, easy, unguarded. The kind that used to belong to me. And then, a woman's voice answered. Soft, silky, familiar. Sophia. My pulse stuttered. For a second I froze, my hand still hovering near the curtain. My mind tried to rearrange the sounds into something innocent. But instinct whispered otherwise, that sharp, sinking whisper that comes when the truth is already standing right behind you. The music from the ballroom dimmed, replaced by the slow pounding in my ears. My breath caught. The laughter came again, low, intimate, and the sound of it cracked something in me. I took a hesitant step forward. The smell of roses thickened, cloying now, almost nauseating. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. My palm pressed against the cold marble wall for balance. Every nerve screamed for me to stop, to turn away, to protect myself from what waited beyond that doorway. But I didn't. I couldn't. Their voices grew clearer, almost tender. I couldn't make out the words, only the tone, warm, familiar, the kind of softness you reserve for someone you shouldn't touch but already have. The world tilted, my stomach clenched, my knees weakened. Nausea rose, sharp and relentless. The air felt too thin, my vision narrowing to a tunnel of light and movement. I stared at my wedding ring, the tiny diamond catching the light like mockery, and wondered when love had started to sound like betrayal. Then I heard his voice. Ethan's. She's too naive to notice anything. She thinks she's lucky to have me. Every sound in the world vanished. I stood frozen, watching the balcony through a haze of disbelief. My fingers went numb. The music from inside seemed distant, meaningless, as if it belonged to another life. I wanted to scream, to throw open the door and demand an explanation. But I couldn't move. My body refused to obey. I felt detached from myself, as if watching a stranger's tragedy unfold from somewhere far above. The corridor spun slightly. I tried to step back, but my heel caught on the carpet. The wine glass in my hand slipped, shattering against the stone floor, a sharp crystalline sound that sliced through the night. Someone grabbed my arms before I fell. Strong hands, steady. I turned. Liam. His smile faded the moment he saw my face. Chloe? His voice trembled, low and alarmed. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. My chest heaved once, twice, but no sound came out. My eyes darted toward the balcony, then back at him. Whatever he saw in my expression, shock, grief, horror, it told him enough. He didn't look toward the balcony. He didn't need to. His jaw tightened, and something cold, calculating flickered behind his eyes. I'd seen that look once before, at our parents' funeral, when he promised me we would survive no matter what it took. This time, I didn't believe we would. Inside, laughter and music filled the air again, the world spinning on, untouched by the quiet death of my trust. I leaned against my brother's shoulder, trembling, trying to steady my breath. Somewhere behind us, the city lights still glittered, unmoved, unfeeling, eternal. And on that balcony, where love had once lived, something inside me finally shattered for good. The sound that broke me wasn't loud. It was the soft, stunned silence that comes right after a kiss. I saw them through the half-open balcony door. Ethan's hand buried in Sophia's hair, her body pressed against his in a way that left no room for doubt. The chandelier light fractured across the glass. His wedding ring, the one I'd slid onto his finger 3 years ago, caught a sliver of light and flashed like a cruel joke. For one suspended second, everything inside me simply stopped. The terrace had smelled like roses and champagne all night. Now the scent turned heavy. Somewhere behind me, a violin clung to the last notes of "The Way You Look Tonight," romantic and painfully wrong. Sophia laughed first. Not the bright, social laugh she'd been using all evening. This one was low and private, shaped for one set of ears. Ethan's. He murmured something back, lips close to her ear. I didn't hear the words at first over the roar of my heartbeat. My pulse hammered in my ears. My fingers went numb around the stem of my wine glass. I should have turned away. Instead, I shifted my weight, the heel of my shoe scraping against the marble. The sound was small, but sharp. Ethan's head jerked, his gaze lifting just enough for his eyes to catch my reflection in the glass. For a fraction of a second, we stared at each other. Me on one side of the invisible line, him on the other. His expression flickered from pleasure to shock to something uglier. Irritation that I was there, that I had seen. Chloe, he breathed, my name breaking in the middle. My stomach lurched. Nausea hit in a sudden violent wave. It started low, a twisting knot, then climbed, burning up my chest to the back of my throat. The balcony railing seemed to shift. The marble beneath my feet rolled. Sophia turned then, her lipstick smeared just enough to tell the truth. Her eyes widened when she saw me, her face momentarily stripped of charm. Chloe, she whispered, taking a half step toward me. Please, this isn't. Don't. The word came out raw, but it stopped her. My throat burned. Every swallow tasted metallic. Ethan moved as if to come closer, palm out in that old soothing gesture he'd used when I woke from nightmares. Chloe, listen to me. It's not. His voice shifted from panic to frustration, then to something colder. He glanced back at Sophia, then toward the ballroom. She's too stupid and so damn satisfied with what she has, he muttered, not as quiet as he thought. She was never supposed to see this. She doesn't see anything. For years, I'd told myself I was lucky to have him. I thought I was choosing gratitude. He heard it as blindness. The buzzing in my ears grew louder. My heart thudded against my ribs, too fast, too hard. My vision tunneled. The fairy lights along the balcony blurred into streaks of white. I looked down at his hand, at that ring. The diamond we'd chosen together. The simple band beneath it. I remembered his fingers trembling slightly under mine at the altar when he said, "It's us now. Just us. Okay?" Now that same hand was resting on Sophia's hip. My knees loosened, threatening to give out. Heat swept up my neck, then drained away so quickly I went cold. My fingertips tingled. I could feel my heartbeat behind my eyes. "Chloe, please." Sophia tried again, her voice breaking just enough to sound rehearsed. "You don't understand." "You're right," I said, though I wasn't sure the words made it past my lips. "I don't." The balcony, the ballroom, the city lights, it all folded in on itself, like a postcard creasing down the middle. I took one step back, then another, needing distance, air, anything. My shoulder brushed stone. I turned, meaning to walk, to run, to get away before the sob ripping through my chest finally broke free. The corridor was a blur of light and shadow. The music inside had shifted to something upbeat, people clapping along, oblivious to the quiet demolition just outside. I kept moving, one unsteady foot in front of the other. The nausea rose again, fierce and unstoppable. Black spots freckled the edges of my vision. I tried to slow my breathing. Inhale, hold, exhale, but the counts slid away. My heel caught the edge of the carpet runner. For a split second, I felt myself tip forward, weight thrown off, stomach lurching as my body braced for impact. The sconces, paintings, polished wood all smeared together. Then I crashed into something solid. Arms closed around me, firm and steady. The familiar scent of cedar and clean soap hit me first, cutting through the roses and panic. "Hey, hey, whoa," a voice said, low and startled. "I've got you." Liam. I clutched his jacket. I forced my head up, and our eyes met. He'd been smiling when I barreled into him. It vanished the second he saw my face. Every muscle in his body went taut. His eyes, usually warm, went dark and sharp, scanning me like he was taking inventory of damage. "Chloe," he said slowly, his voice dropping. "What happened?" I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Whatever words I might have had. I saw them. It's Ethan. It's Sophia. Jammed behind the hard, jagged lump in my throat. He studied me, really looked. He saw the terror in my eyes, the way I swayed like the floor might give way. The smear of tears I hadn't realized had fallen. His gaze flicked once, briefly, over my shoulder toward the balcony. Something in his expression shifted. Not outrage, not confusion. Something colder. Every part of Liam stilled, like an animal hearing a branch snap in the dark. "Okay," he said quietly, tightening his grip just enough to keep me upright. The brightness of the hotel, the music, the laughter, all of it blurred around us. "You're okay. I've got you." But behind the calm words, I felt it. The exact second my brother understood. and silently decided that whatever had just happened out there on that balcony would not go unanswered. I don't know how long I stood there in Liam's arms, listening to the muffled echo of music leaking through the ballroom walls. Time lost its meaning. Just breath, tremor, and the faint scent of cedar on his jacket. A small anchor in a night where everything else had come undone. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't rush toward the balcony or demand names. He just held me until my shaking softened to a quiet shiver, then pulled back enough to look at me. "You're awfully calm," I whispered, my voice cracking. "Your fiancé was just kissing my husband." His jaw flexed, eyes unreadable. "You're shaking," he said softly. "We're not talking here." He guided me down a side corridor, his hand steady on my back. The glitter of the party dimmed behind us until only silence followed. He opened a door to a small lounge. Dim lights, soft leather, the smell of old whiskey and carpet cleaner. When the door clicked shut, the noise of celebration disappeared completely. I sat on the edge of the couch, still gripping my clutch like a weapon. "Say something," I begged. "Yell. Break something. Just don't stand there like this doesn't matter." He poured water from the bar and set it in front of me. "You want me to break a glass? Or you want me to fix the problem?" The steadiness in his voice chilled me. "Do you even believe me?" "Yes," he said simply. "Then why aren't you angry?" My words came out sharp. "You should be furious. You should be—" He sat across from me, elbows on his knees. "Anger's easy, but it doesn't solve anything. Not this time." I stared at him. "You knew." He didn't deny it. Just looked down at his hands. "I suspected. I've been watching them for weeks." The words hit like a slap. "You what?" He met my eyes again. Steady, cold, sure. "You think I didn't notice the meetings that didn't add up? The trips Sophia said were for the wedding but lined up with Caldwell's schedules? Something was wrong. I needed proof." "Proof of what?" I whispered. He reached into his jacket and placed a small black USB drive on the coffee table between us. It looked harmless, ordinary, yet it hummed with meaning. "This," he said, "every account, every fake contract. Ethan and Sophia have been working with Caldwell Industries, using our company to funnel money into shell accounts. Caldwell's been planning to absorb Miller Construction after the wedding. Ethan's role was to sell the idea that it was all legitimate. Sophia kept it quiet, and He paused. "I waited for them to slip." My stomach clenched. "They used us. Used the family name, the trust, everything." I gripped my knees, nails digging through silk. "You could have told me." "And said what?" His tone sharpened, not unkindly, just practical. "You loved him. You'd have defended him. And if you started acting different, they'd know. They'd hide the trail. We'd lose everything." He wasn't wrong, and that made it worse. I'd built my life around the lie of Ethan's devotion, the illusion that I'd finally built something unbreakable. "So what now?" I asked quietly. "Now," Liam said, leaning forward. "We let them think they've won." My head snapped up. "You want me to pretend? I want you to survive, and I want them careless. Right now, Ethan thinks you're weak. Too naive to notice. Remember? That's our advantage. He won't hide what he doesn't think you understand." A bitter laugh escaped me. "Our advantage is that he thinks I'm pathetic?" "Our advantage," he corrected, "is that he doesn't realize who he's dealing with." His words settled deep in my bones, colder than anger, steadier than fear. "You're serious," I said. "I'm done letting people steal what's ours," he said. "Dad built Miller Construction with his bare hands. Mom kept it alive through 2 recessions. I won't watch 2 snakes tear it apart because they wanted easy money and pretty photos." I picked up the USB drive. The metal was cold against my palm. So I just go on pretending to be the heartbroken wife? He nodded. You act wounded, not vengeful. Let Sophia think she's ruined you. Let Ethan think he's forgiven. They'll get comfortable. When they stop hiding, I'll have everything I need. And then? He met my gaze. Then we take everything back. The calm in his voice terrified me more than rage ever could. This isn't revenge? I asked, though I already knew the answer. He shook his head. No. This is protection. Of the company. Of us. You and I. We're all that's left of this family, and I'm not losing another piece of it. The room fell quiet again. Outside, laughter and applause drifted faintly through the wall. Another toast. Another lie. I looked down at the USB, fingers tightening around it. You've been planning this. I've been waiting for the right moment, he said. Tonight gave us one. The air felt heavier, the space between us charged. I saw the boy who used to hold my hand in the dark after our parents died, promising me that we'd be okay. He'd grown into a man who could turn grief into strategy. Can you do it? He asked softly. Pretend? Be patient, he corrected. Play the part. I hesitated. I don't know if I'm that strong. He smiled faintly. You've always been stronger than you think. For the first time since the balcony, I felt something shift inside me. Not peace, not forgiveness. Something colder, cleaner. Resolve. I slipped the USB into my clutch, my fingers trembling just once before I straightened them. They wanted a game, I said. Let's play. Liam rose, adjusted his tie, and opened the door. The light from the hallway poured in, bright and harsh. Good, he murmured. Because I've been waiting for this day, Chloe. We move together now, like we did after Mom and Dad. They chose betrayal. We choose strategy. As I followed him out, the sounds of the ballroom swelled again. Music, laughter, the hollow echo of normal life. I didn't look back. That woman on the balcony, the one who believed in love and safety, was gone. In her place stood someone colder, smarter, and for the first time, she wasn't afraid. People think betrayal ends with tears. It doesn't. It lingers, in the sound of a closing door, in the way a room suddenly feels too quiet. The morning after the balcony, the Fairmont glittered as if nothing had happened. Staff arranged flowers, waiters rehearsed polite smiles, and sunlight spilled through gold-trimmed windows like forgiveness. Only I knew what still pulsed beneath the perfection. Deceit. I sat at the vanity in my suite, staring at my reflection. I looked exactly like the woman Ethan thought he married, poised, composed, controlled. My hair fell into soft waves, pearls at my throat. But my eyes, they looked older, colder. Liam's voice echoed in my mind. Let them think you're broken. A soft knock at the door. I didn't turn. Come in. Ethan's reflection appeared behind me, pressed suit, careful expression. The kind of calm a man wears when he's praying you didn't see what you saw. Morning, he said, cautious. I met his eyes in the mirror. Morning. He hesitated. About last night? I cut him off with a small, brittle laugh. Nothing happened, Ethan. I was tired. Maybe I misunderstood. His relief was immediate, too quick to hide. He stepped closer, resting his hands on my shoulders. You know how much I love you, right? I nodded. Of course. When he left, I stared at the door until the silence swallowed him whole. My pulse thudded once, twice, hard enough to make my vision tremble. I wanted to scream, but instead, I smiled. The first move of our plan had begun. That afternoon, Liam called me to his office at Miller Construction. It had been our parents' before it was his. A space that still smelled faintly of oil and sawdust, ghosts of simpler years. He was standing by the window, hands in his pockets, his expression the same careful calm I'd come to recognize. On his desk sat a folder, thick and bound in black ribbon. "Proof?" I asked. He nodded. "Bank transfers, call logs, Caldwell's shell accounts, all with Ethan and Sophia's signatures." I flipped through the pages. Each document felt heavier than the last, Ethan's name beside Sophia's. Dates lining up with her supposed wedding planning trips. Betrayal, recorded in ink. "They were going to merge Caldwell with us," Liam said. "After the wedding, they'd transfer ownership under their names. Everything Dad built would vanish." My throat closed. "So what do? "We use their confidence against them," he replied. "Caldwell's gala is in 3 weeks. They'll finalize everything there. You'll be by Ethan's side, smiling, playing the perfect wife. Meanwhile, I'll finish gathering evidence." The thought of pretending, of letting Ethan touch me again, made my skin crawl. "You're asking me to act?" "I'm asking you to be strategic," Liam said evenly. "They think you're weak. That's the mistake that'll ruin them." I stared at him, searching for the boy who used to protect me after our parents died. He was still there, just quieter, sharper. "You've changed," I said. "So have you," he answered. That night I practiced my mask in the mirror. Smile, breathe, nod. The art of pretending. When Ethan joined me for dinner, I played my role flawlessly, laughed when expected, reached for his hand at the right moment, met his eyes without trembling. He relaxed quickly, too confident, too careless. "I'm glad we're okay," he said, squeezing my fingers. "Of course we are," I replied. He didn't notice that my other hand, beneath the table, had torn the napkin clean in half. After dinner, I met Liam in the hallway outside the ballroom. He leaned casually against the wall, his tie loosened, expression unreadable. "How was your evening?" he asked. "Convincing," I said. "He believes me." Liam's mouth twitched, half a smile, half grim pride. "Good. We need him comfortable. The more he talks, the easier this gets." He handed me a small silver necklace. "Microphone in the clasp. Wear it tomorrow. The investigator will record everything." I turned it over in my palm, the cool metal glinting in the light. "You've thought of everything." "That's what big brothers do," he said softly. Something in his voice cracked the edge of my composure. For a heartbeat, the weight of what we were doing, the lies, the planning, the quiet rage, pressed down on me. But I understood now. We weren't destroying. We were protecting. "I'll play my part," I said. "But when it's time to strike, I want to be there." "You will," Liam promised. "This isn't just my fight, Chloe. It's ours." He placed his hand over mine, steady and firm. "Mom used to say Miller blood doesn't break. It rebuilds." I looked at him, really looked, and saw the boy who once swore he'd never let the world take anything else from us. That boy had grown into a man who kept his promises, even if it meant war. "Then we rebuild," I said quietly. As I left his office, I felt the first spark of control return, small but steady. I could hear the faint laughter from the floors below, the sound of a world still oblivious to the reckoning coming for it. They'd taken love from me. They'd taken trust. But they'd underestimated what happens when a woman like me learns to use her pain. This wasn't revenge. Not yet. It was the prelude. There's something cruel about pretending you still love the man who betrayed you. Every smile becomes a blade. Every word tastes like metal. The Fairmont was glowing that morning. Chandeliers glistened like nothing had cracked beneath their light. Guests laughed, champagne poured, and cameras flashed, completely unaware that the entire wedding was about to become an execution dressed in lace. I stood before the mirror in a pale blue dress, the color of calm oceans and hidden bruises. The reflection looked flawless, but the woman behind it was no longer soft. My smile had become a mask, one Liam himself had helped me build. "Let them think you're broken," he had said, so I smiled through my ruin. Ethan appeared behind me in the mirror. His reflection was as perfect as always, tie straight, jaw tight, eyes searching. "Morning," he said carefully. "Morning," I replied, watching him like a ghost might watch the living. He hesitated. "About last night, nothing happened," I cut in smoothly. "It was late. I overreacted." His shoulders eased. He wanted to believe me so badly that it was almost pathetic. He leaned closer, kissed my shoulder. "You know I love you, right?" I nodded. "I know." When he left, the silence filled the room like smoke. I sat for a long moment, breathing through the calm before the storm. By afternoon, the ballroom transformed into a cathedral of glass and gold. Rows of guests glittered under soft light, cameras ready to immortalize a lie. Ethan guided me to my seat with practiced charm, his hand steady on my back. My skin burned beneath his touch. "Are you okay?" he whispered. I smiled. "I've never been better." He believed me. Of course he did. Men like Ethan always mistake silence for forgiveness. The orchestra began, the doors opened, and there she was, Sophia. Gown of pale gold, veil trailing like spilled sunlight, her face a study in elegance and deceit. The crowd sighed. Liam waited at the altar, calm and composed, his posture carved from marble. The ceremony began. Words like forever, faithful. Devotion echoed through the hall, meaningless syllables wrapped in satin. I barely heard them. My attention stayed fixed on Sophia's face, the subtle tension in her jaw, the flicker in her eyes when she dared glance at Ethan across the aisle. Liam's calm unnerved her. I saw the faint panic bloom behind her perfect smile. He wasn't the broken groom she expected. He was the storm, waiting. When the officiant called for the rings, the room seemed to tighten around us. Ethan shifted beside me, his hand brushing mine. The scent of his cologne, once intoxicating, now turned my stomach. I closed my fingers around the hidden microphone in my necklace. The recorder blinked red beneath my collarbone, capturing everything. "Do you, Liam Alexander Miller, take Sophia Caldwell?" The air snapped. A scream cut through the ceremony. A woman's voice. Raw, furious, real. "You liar!" Gasps rippled across the hall. Guests turned. A woman in a red dress stormed down the aisle, tears streaking her mascara. She pointed a trembling finger at Sophia. "Tell them about me, Sophia. Tell them about your fiancé in New York." The room fractured into chaos. Sophia froze. Her bouquet slipped from her hands. I don't know her." The woman raised her phone. Photos flashed across the screen. Sophia, half-dressed in a hotel room, another man's arms around her. The audience erupted. Reporters snapped pictures. Guests whispered like vultures. Liam didn't flinch. He stepped forward, voice low but clear. "She's right. But that's not the only lie Sophia Caldwell told today." The crowd fell silent. Ethan's hand tightened around my wrist. "What's he doing?" I didn't answer. I just watched. Liam turned toward the back of the room and nodded. The lights dimmed. A projector came alive with a soft click. Then, movement. A balcony. Golden light. Two figures entwined. Ethan's voice. Sophia's laugh. A collective gasp swept through the guests. My lungs froze. The video was raw, grainy, but unmistakable. The truth glowed across the screen for everyone to see. Ethan shot to his feet. "This is fake! Someone set us up!" No one believed him. The whispers thickened, heavy with disgust. Sophia's lips trembled. Her knees wobbled beneath her gown. Liam stood motionless at the altar, every word he spoke measured and cold. "Greed and deceit," he said, his tone sharp enough to slice glass. Destroy legacies. They don't build them. The screen went black. The room stayed frozen. For a long moment, no one breathed. Ethan's voice cracked beside me. Chloe, I can explain. I looked at him, calm as the eye of the storm. You already did. Everyone heard you. He blinked, lost, shrinking beneath the weight of his own arrogance. Cameras flashed. Sophia tried to reach for Liam, but he stepped back, refusing even the touch of her shadow. The orchestra never played again that day. The wedding was over before the vows could finish. And as the guests began to scatter, whispers like ashes, I sat perfectly still, watching Ethan drown in the wreckage he created. Liam caught my gaze across the room. Just for a moment, we shared something wordless. Not triumph, not relief. Justice. Cold and pure. As I rose to leave, I realized revenge didn't need to scream. Sometimes it only had to breathe. Silence after chaos has its own kind of violence. The wedding hall, once golden with applause and music, now felt like a battlefield after the smoke cleared. Perfume mixed with panic, whispers slicing through the air like shards of glass. Sophia stood at the altar, pale as marble, her gown wrinkled and stained by tears. Liam hadn't moved. He stood like a statue, calm, composed, terrifyingly still. I knew that silence. I'd seen it before, the moment right before the storm hits. Ethan sat beside me, breathing fast. His knuckles were white against his knees. The man who once controlled every room now looked small, cornered. My chest rose and fell in slow, deliberate rhythm. I'd promised Liam I wouldn't interfere, and I wouldn't. This was his stage now. Someone coughed in the crowd. A few guests stood, whispering behind their hands. The woman in red, Sophia's ex-fiancé, was still shouting until a guard gently led her away. Flashbulbs popped like distant gunfire. Sophia turned toward Liam, trembling. Liam, please, she begged, her voice cracking. You have to believe me. They set me up. This is a mistake. Liam tilted his head, studying her like a puzzle missing too many pieces. A mistake? He said softly. You mean the fiancé in New York? Or the one sitting beside my sister? Gasps rippled through the guests. Sophia's knees buckled slightly. I can explain. You already have, Liam said, over and over again. His voice was calm, too calm. That was the part that scared people. Anger was expected. Stillness wasn't. Enough! Sophia's father, Mr. Caldwell, rose from the front row, his expression pinched with fury. This is outrageous! You're humiliating my daughter in front of the entire city. Liam turned to him, unbothered. Your daughter did that herself. A wave of whispers followed. Cameras clicked again. Liam took a deep breath, his composure unshakable. You came here to celebrate a merger, not a marriage, so let's stop pretending. The words hit like a bullet. The room went dead quiet. Ethan's head snapped toward him. What are you talking about? Liam looked straight at him. Caldwell Industries, the offshore accounts, the money transfers you facilitated. You and Sophia didn't just betray your families. You tried to buy them. The blood drained from Ethan's face. That's not true. Oh, it's very true, Liam said evenly, and it's all documented. He motioned toward one of his assistants near the back. The lights dimmed again. Another screen flickered to life. This time not a balcony, but spreadsheets, emails, and contracts flashing in sequence. Every line item, every signature, projected in cold, white light. I heard the murmurs grow, names, numbers, disbelief. Some of the older guests exchanged horrified looks. The Millers were old money, but the Caldwells were powerful, and scandals like this were blood, sport in San Francisco. Mr. Caldwell shot to his feet. Turn that off. No, Liam said quietly. You don't get to hide anymore. His words carried through the room, calm but heavy. For months, your company's been funneling funds out of joint contracts through subsidiaries Ethan helped set up. My family's name, our legacy, was being used as a front for your greed. I looked at Ethan. He didn't deny it. He just stared at the floor, his lips pressed in a thin, shaking line. Sophia tried to reach for Liam. Please, just let me explain. Liam's voice dropped lower. Don't. The sound of it froze her mid-step. Behind us, a reporter whispered to another, "This is going to make headlines for weeks." The tension in the room was suffocating. Even the chandeliers seemed to flicker slower. Then it happened. Like fate wanted one final blow. Sophia's composure cracked. "You think you're so righteous," she spat, voice shaking. "Your company was dying before I saved it. Your father built it on favors and lies. We just did what every powerful man does, took what we deserved." Liam didn't blink. "No," he said softly. "You took what you thought you could get away with." Mr. Caldwell started toward the exit, muttering orders to his associates, but he was stopped halfway down the aisle by two detectives in dark suits. For a moment, no one moved. Then the officers stepped forward, flashing badges. "Mr. Caldwell," one said, "we have a warrant regarding the financial misconduct investigation tied to your firm." Gasps, cameras, chaos. The old man's face drained of color. "This is ridiculous," he growled, but they were already guiding him toward the door. Sophia collapsed onto a chair, hands clutching the fabric of her gown. Ethan remained seated, motionless, his eyes darting between the officers and Liam like a man watching his life burn down in slow motion. I wanted to feel satisfaction, but what I felt was heavier, colder. There's no joy in justice when it comes too late. Liam turned to the crowd, his voice steady, echoing through the hall. "For those who still doubt, the evidence has already been submitted to the authorities. This isn't about revenge, it's about integrity, something our parents taught us never to sell." The guests began to stand, one by one, gathering their things, whispering. The illusion was over. The empire of glamour had turned to dust. Ethan finally spoke, voice hoarse. "Chloe, you knew?" I met his gaze. "I learned from the best." He flinched like I'd struck him. When the room began to empty, Liam reached me, placing a steady hand on my shoulder. His calm was gone now, replaced by exhaustion and quiet sadness. "It's done," he said. "No," I whispered, looking at Ethan, at Sophia, at the wreckage we'd just created. "It's only beginning." He didn't argue. He just nodded, his expression unreadable. Outside, the late afternoon light spilled through the glass doors, catching the floating dust like glitter. From behind us came the sound of sobbing, snapping cameras and the faint echo of footsteps, the sound of two empires falling. I took Liam's hand. "Let's go home." He nodded. "Home," he said softly, though we both knew nothing waiting for us there would ever feel like home again. As we stepped into the sunlight, I realized that vengeance doesn't end with the truth. The truth is just the first crack, and what comes after is everything that falls through it. People say justice is blind, but that night, inside the Fairmont's glittering ballroom, justice had eyes, and it was staring straight at them. The air was thick with silence and perfume. The chandeliers still glowed above us, but the light felt colder now, harsher, cutting through the pretense. The projector behind Liam still burned faintly, showing Ethan's signature beside Caldwell's logo, proof of everything they'd hidden. Sophia sat collapsed near the altar, her golden gown wrinkled and mascara streaked. Ethan stood rigid beside me, every muscle tight, his eyes darting between Liam and the police officers at the back. Liam spoke first, his voice calm but sharp enough to pierce the air. "You came here for a wedding," he said, "but what you witnessed was a crime." The crowd turned toward him, dozens of powerful men and women suddenly unsure where to look. Liam's voice didn't rise, but it didn't need to. Authority had a way of filling every space it entered. I won't apologize, he continued. What almost happened here wasn't love, it was theft. Theft of trust, of legacy, of a family's name. He gestured toward the screen. For months, Caldwell Industries, with help from people in this room, has been siphoning funds out of Miller Construction. My family's company was their shield. My sister's marriage was their cover. The room stirred. Gasps. Murmurs. Ethan took a step forward. You don't know what you're talking about. Liam didn't blink. Don't I? Every transfer, every forged contract, your name is on them, Ethan. You turned our family business into your personal bargaining chip. Sophia rose shakily. You think you're a saint, Liam? Your company was dying. We saved it. We made you relevant. Liam's tone didn't change. You made us collateral. Mr. Caldwell, red-faced, stood from the front row. This is slander. No, Liam said. This is evidence. He nodded to the projector again. The screen shifted. More documents appeared, lines of transactions and email threads scrolling like confession notes. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, overlapping in disbelief. Then a voice rang out near the back, one of Caldwell's board members. We didn't approve any of this. A detective stepped forward from the doorway. Then you'll clarify that to the district attorney. The word district attorney dropped like a stone. The whispers stopped. The officers advanced quietly, not in aggression, but inevitability. Mr. Caldwell's jaw worked soundlessly before he turned toward the door, flanked by detectives. Sophia looked after him, panic spreading across her face. Daddy, do something! But there was nothing left to do. Ethan's voice cracked. Liam, please. You don't understand. I was trying to protect Chloe. To protect... Liam's eyes flicked to me. Protect her? You sold her trust for a balance sheet. Ethan's composure broke. Chloe, he said, turning toward me, voice trembling. Please, I made mistakes, but I love you. For the first time all night I spoke. Love doesn't lie, Ethan. It doesn't kiss someone else on a balcony and call it business. He flinched. I didn't mean... You never mean to. I interrupted softly. You just do. The detectives moved closer. Mr. Parker, we need you to come with us. He froze. Then, without resisting, let them take him by the arm. As he passed me, his eyes met mine one last time, pleading, hollow, afraid. Once, that look might have shattered me. Now it only confirmed I'd been right to stop believing. Sophia tried to follow, but the other officer stepped in her path. Miss Caldwell, you'll need to stay for questioning. Her voice rose to a shriek. You can't do this. This is all a setup. But no one listened. The flashes of cameras drowned her out. Her screams turned into sobs. And just like that, the empire they'd built on greed began to crumble in front of everyone. When the doors finally shut behind the officers, silence fell again. Heavy. Final. The guests sat frozen, staring at the empty altar where love was supposed to live. Liam stood perfectly still, his calm finally fraying at the edges. It's over, he said quietly. I shook my head. No, it's exposed. That's different. He exhaled. Then we rebuild. The guests started to leave in clusters, some sympathetic, others eager to escape the scandal. A few stopped to murmur meaningless words. Sorry for your loss. So brave. Such strength. I nodded at each, barely hearing. My eyes were fixed on the remnants of the ceremony, the scattered petals, the untouched cake, the toppled champagne flutes. A celebration turned funeral. Come on, Liam said softly. Let's go home. The word home tasted strange, but as I followed him through the empty corridor, something inside me settled. For the first time, the anger had quieted, replaced by clarity. Behind us, through the cracked doors, I caught one last glimpse of the ballroom. Two uniformed officers stood beneath the chandeliers, right where the bride and groom should have been. The altar gleamed white in the cold light. Justice, I thought, wasn't blind at all. It saw every lie. And tonight, it decided to speak. The days after the wedding felt like a fog that refused to lift. Every headline screamed our names. Miller exposes Caldwell fraud at live ceremony. Corporate empire collapses amid family scandal. The world devoured our pain in real time. Liam became the face of righteous vengeance, calm, articulate, unshakable. I was the ghost in the background, the grieving wife turned symbol of betrayal. People loved a woman wronged, but they loved her silence even more. I didn't speak. Not to the press, not to Ethan, not even to myself. But the silence was never empty. It was the hum before the storm. 3 days later, the company board met to finalize Caldwell's removal from all Miller partnerships. Liam sat at the head of the long mahogany table, the same seat our father once occupied. The conference room smelled of old wood and quiet tension. Sophia's name was already being scrubbed from contracts. Caldwell's assets were frozen. The empire that once seemed untouchable was collapsing, one legal document at a time. I stood near the window, arms folded, watching San Francisco's fog swallow the skyline. "Are you sure about pressing criminal charges?" I asked. "You already took everything from them." Liam didn't look up from his papers. "I didn't take anything. They gave it away when they got greedy." His voice was calm, but I could hear the fatigue in it. The weight of carrying justice too long. "Still," I said softly, "it feels like we're punishing ashes." He set his pen down and looked at me. "Ashes can reignite, Chloe. You know that better than anyone." He wasn't wrong. That evening, I returned to my apartment for the first time in weeks. Ethan was gone. His things had been taken into evidence. But somehow, the place still smelled like him. Caffeine, sandalwood, regret. I walked from room to room like a stranger touring someone else's memories. The photos, the faint dents in the couch, the mug he always forgot to wash. It was haunting, but familiar. A knock startled me. When I opened the door, Sophia was standing there. Her hair was a mess, eyes bloodshot, lips trembling. She looked nothing like the woman who had strutted down the aisle in gold silk. "What are you doing here?" I asked quietly. She laughed, bitter and cracked. "You won, Chloe. Isn't that what you wanted?" "I didn't want this," I said. She took a step closer, her voice rising. "Don't lie. You wanted to watch me fall. You and your perfect brother, playing God while everyone else bleeds." I held my ground. "We didn't destroy you, Sophia. You did." Her hands trembled. "You think this is over? Caldwell may be gone, but I still have friends. Money. You'll see." "Threatening me won't bring your life back," I said evenly. "Just go." Her eyes flickered. Rage, desperation, maybe both. "You think you're safe?" she whispered. "You have no idea what I've lost." Before I could answer, she lunged. It happened so fast, her hand flashing toward me, the glint of something metallic in the dim light. A hairpin, sharpened to a point. I stumbled back, the table crashing behind me. And then, Ethan's voice. "Stop!" He appeared in the doorway, pale, eyes wild. He must have been released on bail, or maybe he'd followed her here. Everything happened in seconds. Sophia turned, startled, her grip faltering. Ethan moved instinctively, between us, just as she swung. The blade caught his shoulder. The sound, a dull, sickening thud, filled the air before his body hit the floor. "Ethan!" I screamed, dropping beside him. Blood seeped through his shirt, blooming like a dark flower. Sophia froze, horrified, the pin clattering from her hand. "No, No, I didn't mean. Liam burst through the door moments later, followed by 2 officers. He took in the scene, the blood, the trembling hands, and his expression hardened into something I'd never seen before. "Get her out," he said quietly. Sophia didn't resist as the officers pulled her away. Her sobs echoed down the hall until the door shut behind her. I pressed a towel against Ethan's wound, my hands shaking. "Stay with me," I whispered. "Don't close your eyes." He looked up at me, voice weak but clear. "I'm sorry, Chloe. I never wanted you to get hurt." Tears burned down my face, but I said nothing. There were no words left. Liam knelt beside me, his voice steady but soft. "He'll be fine. The ambulance is on its way." I nodded numbly. The sirens arrived minutes later, red and blue lights painting the room in fractured color. As they lifted Ethan onto the stretcher, he turned his head toward me. "Thank you," he murmured. I didn't know if it was for saving him or for letting him go. Hours later, the police station called. Sophia had confessed everything, her role in the embezzlement, her collusion with Caldwell, even the attack. It was over. But the word over didn't feel right. It wasn't peace, I felt. It was emptiness, raw and echoing. Liam drove us home in silence, the city lights blurred outside the window. Finally, he spoke. "He saved you." I stared out at the fog. Maybe he was trying to save himself. Liam didn't argue. He didn't have to. When we reached home, I stood by the window, watching the dawn push against the horizon. The first light touched the bay, turning it silver. So much had been destroyed. But maybe, just maybe, something could be rebuilt from the wreckage. Ethan had saved my life. But that didn't erase what he'd done. Forgiveness wasn't absolution. It was a door you open only when you're ready to walk through it. And tonight, I wasn't ready. But I would be. Someday. Hospitals are places where time moves differently. Every second stretches, every heartbeat echoes, and the air smells like antiseptic and regret. Ethan was alive. The doctors called it a miracle. I called it unfinished business. Liam sat beside me in the waiting room, shoulders heavy but eyes steady. "You don't have to see him," he said. "I know," I replied. "But I will." He didn't stop me. He just squeezed my hand, the same way he had when we buried our parents. Quiet strength in place of words. When I walked into Ethan's room, he looked smaller somehow. His shoulder was wrapped in bandages, his skin pale, eyes hollow. The man who once filled every room with arrogance now looked empty. "Chloe," he whispered, "you actually came." I did. He smiled faintly, a sad attempt at charm. "You shouldn't have." "Probably not," I said softly. "But I'm tired of leaving things half broken." He closed his eyes, his breath trembling. "I never meant for it to end like this." "It ended the day you stopped being honest," I said. He looked at me, guilt thick in his gaze. "I'm sorry. For everything. The money, the lies, Sophia. I thought I could fix it before you ever found out. I thought I was protecting you. By destroying everything else?" His voice cracked. "I know. I was wrong. But when she came at you, I didn't think. I just moved." "You saved me," I admitted quietly. He nodded. "Maybe that's the only decent thing I've done in a long time." We sat in silence for a moment. The machine beside him beeped steadily, as if mocking how steady the world stayed even when lives fell apart. "I'm divorcing you," I said finally. He flinched but didn't protest. "I figured. Liam told me. I'm not doing it to punish you. I'm doing it because staying would mean I learned nothing." His voice lowered. "You always were stronger than me." "Not stronger," I said. "Just done." He looked at me, his eyes shining. Do you think you'll ever forgive me? I already have, I said. That's how I know it's really over. He closed his eyes, and for the first time in a long while, I saw peace in his face. When I left his room, I didn't look back. 2 weeks later, I drove north, away from the city and the noise, until the world turned green and gold. Napa Valley. Rows of vineyards stretched beneath a wide sky, quiet and forgiving. I rented a small cottage tucked between olive trees. The mornings were filled with birdsong and sunlight. The nights with silence that didn't hurt. Healing wasn't a moment, it was a process. Each day I woke up early, made coffee, walked barefoot through the grass, and remembered what breathing felt like. One morning, a letter arrived. No stamp, just my name, in Liam's handwriting. It's done. Caldwell pled guilty. Sophia's been charged with assault. Ethan took a plea deal. The company's safe again. You don't have to fight anymore, Chloe. Rest. L. I read it twice before I could breathe again. Not because of the words, but because of what they meant. Survival. That evening, as the sun melted into the horizon, a car pulled up near the porch. David, the detective who'd handled our case, stepped out. You're hard to find, he said, smiling. That's the point. He handed me a cup of coffee and sat beside me. We didn't talk at first. The valley glowed with gold light, the wind carrying the faint smell of grapes and earth. You look different, he said finally. I'm learning how to exist again, I replied. He nodded. That's harder than surviving. Yeah, I said softly. It is. We talked about everything but the case, about the vineyard, the weather, how peace can be as terrifying as chaos. His presence was calm, grounding. I hadn't realized how much I needed that until then. Do you believe people like Ethan can change? I asked after a while. David thought for a long moment. I think some people finally see the wall they've built. Whether they climb over it or stay behind it, that's on them. And me? You already did, he said simply. The stars came out one by one. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like I owed anyone an explanation. Weeks passed quietly. I started tending a small garden, painting the cottage walls white, filling the space with light instead of noise. Life didn't roar back, it whispered. Then one afternoon, a delivery arrived. A small white box. No name. Inside was a single white rose and a handwritten note. Forgive yourself, Chloe. Love again. No signature. Maybe it was Liam. Maybe Ethan. Maybe no one I knew. But for once it didn't matter. Forgiveness wasn't about who asked for it. It was about who accepted it. I placed the rose in a glass of water and watched the sunset spill across the vines. The wind moved through the leaves, soft and constant, like a sigh of relief from the earth itself. And in that moment, I understood. I wasn't the woman who'd been betrayed anymore. I was the woman who survived it and learned how to breathe again. It wasn't revenge that saved me. It was finally choosing peace. 2 years later. Sometimes I wake up before dawn, before the world remembers to make noise, and I just listen. To the faint hum of the refrigerator, the creak of the house as it settles, the soft breaths of my daughter asleep down the hall. Ava, our little echo of everything that came before. The morning light spills across the floorboards, painting the walls gold. David is already up, somewhere outside, tending to the garden he swore he'd never care about. He's not the kind of man who promises forever. He's the kind who stays quietly, day after day, until forever just happens. Liam calls every Sunday. His voice always sounds stronger these days, grounded. He and his wife just welcomed their first son. The company's thriving, he told me last week. Dad would be proud. Maybe he would. Maybe he wouldn't care about profit margins or legacy. Maybe he'd just want to know that his children found peace after all the noise. Miller Construction has changed. So have we. It's not about empire anymore. It's about ethics, trust, community. The kind of foundation our parents built their lives on. Liam and David work together now. Sometimes I watch them talk across the patio, heads bent, two men bound not by blood, but by the quiet understanding of what it means to protect something fragile. I like to imagine Mom watching from wherever she is, smiling at the strange family we became. The house we live in now sits on the edge of Sonoma, surrounded by trees and laughter. Ava toddles through the grass with her curls bouncing, chasing butterflies and giggling as if the world has never known cruelty. Maybe, in her small universe, it hasn't. Every time she laughs, I hear healing. Every time David lifts her up, I see safety. Our life is simple. Breakfast on the porch, phone calls with Liam, long drives to the beach on weekends. The kind of life that doesn't need to be perfect to be beautiful. Sometimes, though, when the wind moves a certain way through the vineyards, I feel it again. The echo of everything that burned before this peace existed. And I think of Ethan. He wrote me once, from prison. A letter I didn't expect, full of remorse and clarity. You were right, Chloe. Love without honesty is poison. I hope you found someone who makes you feel safe enough to tell the truth again. Don't hate me for what I was. Remember me for what I could have been. I never wrote back. But I kept the letter. Not because I missed him, but because it reminded me that even broken things can leave behind something worth learning from. Sophia and Caldwell's names vanished from the news months after their sentencing. The world moved on. It always does. But sometimes, in the quiet, I wonder if justice ever really ends, or if it just changes shape, becoming a part of who we are. This morning, Ava ran into the kitchen holding something small in her hands. "Mommy, a present." I turned, smiling, and froze. It was a tiny velvet box. Inside, a diamond bracelet, simple, elegant, and an engraved message on the inner clasp. "To our little one, from Grandma." The words sliced through me like ice. Ava giggled. "It's pretty, right?" It was in the mailbox. My heart started to race. There was no return address. The handwriting on the card, looped, graceful, felt unfamiliar, but practiced. Too practiced. David walked in from outside, wiping his hands on a towel. "What's that?" I showed him. His expression changed in an instant, from curiosity to concern. "Who sent it?" "I don't know." He took the box, turning it over. No clues, no manufacturer label. Just the faint smell of perfume. Something expensive, subtle, hauntingly familiar. He looked at me. "You're thinking what I'm thinking." I nodded slowly. Sophia didn't have any children, but she had a sister. Remember? Liam had mentioned her once, back when everything unfolded. Someone who'd kept her distance during the scandal. Someone the investigators could never quite track down. The room suddenly felt colder. David set the box down carefully, his jaw tightening. It could be nothing. Some old family connection. Or it could be something, I said quietly, eyes on the bracelet. Something that isn't over. Ava tugged at my sleeve, oblivious to the tension. "Can I keep it, Mommy?" I forced a smile and knelt down. "Not right now, sweetheart. Maybe later." I kissed her forehead, inhaling the warm, sweet scent of her hair, grounding myself in her innocence. Outside, a car engine rumbled softly. Through the kitchen window, I saw a sleek black vehicle idling across the street. The tinted windows hid the driver, but I felt it. A pair of eyes watching. The car didn't move for several seconds. Then, slowly, it rolled forward and disappeared around the corner. David followed my gaze. "You saw that too?" "Yes." Neither of us spoke for a long moment. Then he took my hand, steady but firm. "We'll figure it out." "I know," I said, though my voice didn't sound like mine. I looked down at the bracelet again, at the words engraved inside. From Grandma. Ava's laughter echoed through the house, bright and pure, cutting through the unease for a moment. And just like that, I realized something. Every legacy carries its own shadow. You can rebuild, heal, start anew, but the past has a way of whispering, reminding you it's still out there, watching. I turned off the kitchen lights, pulling Ava close, and watched the evening sky through the window, orange melting into indigo, the horizon trembling like the edge of a memory. Maybe this was peace, or maybe it was the calm before another storm. Either way, I wasn't afraid, because this time I wasn't the woman who broke. I was the one who survived and learned how to listen for the echoes. People say revenge is a fire that will burn both sides, but perhaps it is precisely in those ashes that we can most clearly see our own shape, vulnerable, proud, and yearning to be loved the right way. I don't need to watch the betrayer fall to feel victorious. Because sometimes the true winner isn't the one who strikes back, but the one who dares to let go, dares to move on, dares to let their heart soften. I've learned one thing. Forgiveness is not meant to save someone else. It's meant to save yourself. If it were you, when the person who once called themselves family literally set your home on fire with their own hands, would you choose revenge or choose to walk away in silence? Leave your thoughts below, not to judge, but to understand together. Sometimes forgiveness is the most beautiful revenge life has ever witnessed.